Hey there, Jordan. Still in Chicago in a little grassroots setup here. I'm here with Diane DeLayden. You're running for alderwoman, or man, whatever they call it here, in the 40th Ward.
Correct.
And you've actually been at the forefront, the fight against high lead levels here. Came out a few months ago that they found lead really high levels in like hundreds of homes, probably more than that, probably more than they even looked. Because we've seen, kind of selective searches in cities like Flint, Pittsburgh, this and there. Talk to me kind of about, you're a school teacher, you ran for alderman before, and you're running again. We're seeing more and more actual progressives, more teachers and public workers run for office here. And you and I were just talking about the Chicago machine. Talk about your race and kind of what you're experiencing as Mr. Rahm Emanuel, the mayor, and the rest of the machine here tries to continue to gentrify.
Okay, well, our race in the 40th Ward is a place where I have lived most of my life, and I'm really rooted in the community. I care about my neighbors, I care about the students I teach, and I care about the fact that corruption is costing us our lifestyle here in Chicago. I ran 4 years ago and got 42% of the vote, then ran for committeeman and got 45% of the vote. And there are other people in the race now along with me and the current alderman, and I'm very happy about that. I'm so glad more people are stepping up, younger people, people from different walks of life. We all want to help Chicago get out of this spiral of corruption. The lead in the water is just one of the signs of things that have been let go so long. We probably can't even fix it at this point, and nobody's coming up with any solutions.
Mm-hmm. And the lead, majority, especially the Rust Belt, has pipes that are 70 to 100 years old. But as far as I know, the testing that's being done in these communities is totally insufficient. And then when they found the lead, it's not like oh my God, we have these lead pipes that are poisoning children. We need to dig up the ground right now, which they can do with Chicago's exorbitant taxes.
Yes.
They're kind of sweeping it under the rug. In some communities, they're throwing more chemicals into the pipes to try and recoat the pipes. Can you kind of talk about what has been the response from City Hall, the government here, because they found the Chicago Tribune, brain-damaging lead found in hundreds of homes, but as far as I could see, it hasn't been a national issue, and there has not been that much aggressive action on the issue.
It hasn't been a national issue because it's not getting national coverage. It's barely getting local coverage. We have families every day who go to parks who are drinking out of water fountains, so that also might be polluted. I want to add one fact here. Chicago's the last major city in the country to force the use of lead pipes from the street into the home through 1987. Even when everyone else had banned it, they knew darn well that lead was unhealthy, but they allowed it through building code through 1987. As a matter of fact, it was required. The reason I started the lead petition, it's a public referendum, non-binding, for the ballot in November, that would require or suggest that the city hold public hearings around the city to address the problems and people's concerns. One of the issues is that the Progressive Caucus introduced a resolution into City Hall, and that resolution also called for these public hearings. My alderman in particular is the floor leader, and they immediately maneuvered this resolution into a committee called the Rules Committee, which is where everyone in Chicago knows resolutions go to die. So I met with the Progressive Caucus members and said, let's get it on a local level. And the response has been fantastic. We're turning in our petitions next week. We have hundreds of signatures. I've worked with other people in other wards, other activists, to get it started in other wards. And we know it's non-binding, but we think the voters need a voice.
Mm-hmm. And you already have, let's call it what it is. You have very bad crime problems in Chicago, and we know lead is found in high crime areas. Lead is a toxin. It affects your mood, your behavior, everything. We're seeing in Flint, I've been there 12 times in 2 years. 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, even higher, start to act out. You're a school teacher. You know what I'm talking about. So this is not like a now problem. This is a problem that could go into, you know, the next decade, the next 2 decades, 3 decades, because kids, especially kids whose brains are still being formed, bodies, organs, are drinking lead, and who knows what else is in these pipes. It's not just lead. They find bacteria. They find, you know, in Flint they found high TTHMs, which are chemical disinfection byproducts. It's staggering because you have a Democratic Party nationally that was attacking the EPA under Scott Pruitt, but locally they're not doing anything. Do you think it's because if they give an inch on this, then what else might be found? They want to prevent even more findings and high lead levels, possibly in schools even, from coming out?
You said so many things that triggered thoughts in my head. Number one, the rise in crime and everything else that you just mentioned can also be attributed to the fact that Rahm Emanuel has been the only mayor in the country who has closed more than 4 dozen public schools. You eliminate the neighborhood school, you're eliminating food programs, you're eliminating librarians, you're eliminating school nurses, you're eliminating a lifeline to communities. I believe some of this is done purposely to disseminate communities or scatter people so they have no more power. This continues the downward spiral that I think is caused by institutional racism. This is a pointed effort at communities with low resources in Chicago. One of the reasons we were so angry about the resolution being put into committee is because right within that frame of time, Rahm Emanuel mentioned that the city's responsibility is the mains in the city and through the streets, but it's the homeowner's problem from the curb to the house. Well, number one, in Chicago, we pay the highest taxes in the country. Gas tax, sales tax. We're about to get one of the highest regressive property tax levies in history. Can't they meet with us in public and give us some options? I know many of my students are living in buildings owned by slumlords who will never test the water. And they're never going to spend a dime to replace any pipes. It's not okay that some people in neighborhoods or some people in gentrified neighborhoods or who live downtown get their water tested and buy expensive filtration systems. We need to care for families and children. We are not taking care of our children in this city. I care about the next generation. I care about every generation. We need more people involved, just like we're doing protests on Lakeshore Drive during Lollapalooza. We're going to have to organize around these basic quality of life issues in Chicago. So meet with me in public. Meet with me on my turf in my neighborhood and tell me and my neighbors and residents of communities what they plan to do. They work for us.